Hello, everyone, and this is the first ever episode of Ballin In Da Boot, where we're going to discuss a lot of things Louisiana high school football. We're also going to talk a lot of middle school and some flag football as well from our friends from Louisiana Prospects as well. They're going to come in and week out. Of course, when we talk about the Louisiana high school football season, of course, we got to catch up with our buddy Jerit Roser from Louisiana versus all of y'all. So, Jared, another season going coming up, and we're excited to cover some really good Louisiana high school football this year. And it's crazy to say, but we're about to get going for another season.
No doubt about it, man. It feels like at some point in the spring, the summer is always going to take forever, and we're going to get so much done, both work-wise and some downtime and whatnot. And then it seems like the summer flies by faster and faster every year. And so here we are. I know you and I will be out at scrimmages throughout this weekend, and that even with a relatively late kickoff to the official season, I mean, not starting until whatever it is, the 5th or 6th or whatever, it's coming so quickly.
Yeah, do you find that a little surprising this year? Because I saw the schedule and how it lays. Lays up. Usually, high school football starts around that college football week 1, and then you usually see the state championship games in the second week of. The first week of December. I know it's like the second week of December around. So this year, but are you kind of surprised with the late start this year?
Yeah, it caught me off guard. I guess initially I was assuming it'd be a Labor Day weekend type thing, but just the way the dates fell, I guess it happens like this every so many years where we look at that weekend that LSU is going to be out in Vegas. Obviously, the 31st of August is a Saturday, and then the 1st is a Sunday. And so I guess rather than starting on August 29th and 30th, we started back a week later.
Starting with the scrimmages, I know this is probably going to be released after that, but what scrimmages are you looking forward to cover throughout the weekend, first weekend?
Great question, because it's Thursday morning when we're recording this, and I have not decided which of the Thursday night scrimmages I'm going to go to. Probably either Archbishop Shaw in Sanoma or U High in St. Charles. And then I'm planning on Friday night to be at Jesuit Mandeville, because I'm going to be heading out to Mandeville to catch up with Nate Shepard for his college commitment. So, when folks see this, they might already know where he's headed for the next level too, but we're still waiting for that at the moment.
That's a great transition, Jared, to my next question, because I'm going to try. We got a lot of media day previews from Gridiron that we're going to try to release from our media day. So I'm going to try to see if I can post this if I can. But I was thinking about maybe writing an article about just this year, the running back position. You mentioned Nate Shepard, right? It seems like this year at the running back position, I don't remember a year. I've been covering for a couple years, but I don't remember a year as deep, not only as deep, but just as top heavy as a year at that position when it comes to the state this year.
Yeah, it's a little bit insane. I mean, to a point where a guy like Nate Shepard, who was as productive as anyone last fall as a junior and led his skippers on that great playoff run and has Power 5 offers. His top 5 schools that he's choosing between literally go coast to coast, from Cal out west to Duke on the East Coast, and he gets overlooked sometimes because of the fact that you're in a class with Harlan Berry and James Simon and Jasper Parker, JT Lindsay, and that list just continues to go on. And so you mentioned the top end talent is awesome, and there's a lot of depth to that group as well. Chad Elzy and Jordan Hayes, and no matter how many I list, I will always be leaving someone off, because there's a dozen legitimate D1 backs probably around the state. Xavier Ford, who I didn't mention, Deshaun Ford, who I didn't mention. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, top to bottom, I just don't remember a year like it. Obviously with the big names, but just depth wise, there's a lot of guys like you just named that any other year could have been the best running back in Louisiana. So it just shows you how deep it is from top to bottom. Now, I know a big, I guess, headline of the season coming up is reclassification, that you do it every 2 years, right? So just coming to another year of it. Is there any teams that maybe moved up, moved down to you, that really stood out to you when you looked at like kind of reclassifications?
Yeah, and I think you and I have talked about it a little bit here and there, just in passing over at LSU and stuff, trying to keep up with not only the reclassifications and who's shifting around for the regular season, but then how that I mean, the last couple years, the way of the divisions break up and how you then change from regular season to postseason, it's a lot to keep track of.
Mhm.
And so all of that's really interesting. I printed out to have both the regular season districts in front of me to be able to glance at if I get caught up, or the postseason divisions. But I know a lot of eyes will be on, for instance, an Evangel that moves back up to 5A, obviously in the Shreveport area, and has a lot of talent coming into that program, and joins that deep group. Up in the north half of the state, sticking with the big schools, Neville moving up to 5A is super interesting. That's a really talented Tigers team that joins what was already one of the toughest districts in the state at that level. Oak Grove, I think Oak Grove and OCS are both now 2As, and Oak Grove would be in that Division 3 this year at the end of the season. And so that gets interesting. Union Parish moves down to 2A and ends up in Calvary Baptist and Homer's district. And so a district where for years you looked at Calvary Baptist having maybe one really competitive game during district. Suddenly that district gets a little bit more interesting to watch as the
Mhm.
season progresses. And trying to think, because similar to talking about those running backs, I know I'll leave something off as we list, because it's a lot of shifting, particularly when you look at both the regular season and postseason dynamics.
Yeah, it is. It is, and I'm right with you, Jared. It's going to take me a while this year to get used to who's 4A, who's 5A, just because of all the moving around this year. So I'm right with you, right there. So we're going to talk about some of the top teams. I mean, I know Go Preps. I know they did like a top 10 list for each classification. We can just kind of broadly just talk about. It's going to be too confusing, Jared, if we try to break it down division, select, non-select. We'll just kind of group everybody together. So when you go to 1A, I know that Division 4 select bracket, that's going to be interesting to watch just because you have Southern Lab, who's won with 2 of the last 3 state championships. I mean, Riverside had a great run last year. Kentwood moving down, uh, Ascension Catholic. So I mean, there's a lot of good teams that private side, and then really the public side looks kind of wide open to me, just because I mean I saw White Castle in the spring, and White Castle looking pretty good at non-select side of things. I mean, Haynesville was in the state championship game last year, so just a 1A. Who are some what are some 1A teams to you, Jared, that I feel like stood out to you?
Yeah, I think a lot of those schools you mentioned will again be among the top contenders in their respective
Mhm.
brackets. But the interesting thing to me is a lot of those teams, while they remain really talented, they've got a lot of key pieces graduated from last year's
Mhm.
team. And so a lot of kind of question marks of how some guys adjust into these bigger roles. Whether you look at Southern Lab having to replace Marlon Brown, who is such a great quarterback for them, and then they've got a kid in Jerry Botley who is really talented, but will be thrown into a bigger role than he's ever faced. And they have other spots like that around the roster. Riverside will have to replace a lot up front. And so, as much as they return from the young quarterback and the now senior running back in Dedrick Lasty and Boogie Johnson and some of those guys, they'll have some new guys in the trenches that are called upon. That sometimes that gets overlooked a little bit because especially in the offseason, we fall in love with the guys that are out there on the 7-on-7 circuit. But
Right.
that's a huge question mark to see how guys are going to take over their new roles on the offensive line. And similarly with Ascension Catholic has to replace some key pieces. And so a lot of those teams that I think we look at as once again top contenders will have some potential growing pains and learning process to their rosters during the course of the season. And I guess a few others that we didn't mention to kind of throw some other schools out there with with that dynamic of some of the top contenders having to replace some key guys. Does that open the door for Harlem Berry and company at St. Martin's to put
Right.
together a
Mhm.
storybook type run on the select side? Does that open the door for maybe similarly on the non-select side and East Feliciana or a Jeanneret, who both are really talented community schools that have a chance, I think, once you get into a playoff bracket and see where some seeds fall and who's on your side and stuff like that, can they put together a run by that point in the season? And again, put together what would be kind of a storybook type season. So those are some of the teams that I have eyes on. I think you hit on a lot of the leaders of the pack, but with some of that roster turnover, could we see a little bit of a Cinderella too?
Well, we have a discussion about, coming into the season when you go up in class now. So we're talking about 2A now. That Calvary Baptist may just be the best overall team when you look at it, regardless of classification. And a lot of times they dominated 5A teams last year. And it's just crazy to think, as good as they were last year, they possibly are even better this year on paper. So, what do you think about Calvary Baptist, and do you truly believe for you, or do you think they are in that contention for best team in the state?
So simultaneously, I love that Calvary Baptist team, and they'll probably be salty when I say that I think there are some 5A teams that I would still keep above them in terms of just some of the size and depth dynamics, particularly in the trenches. Calvary Baptist, I think, is certainly in that top tier, a couple of tiers around the state, despite being one of those smaller schools. And a lot goes to them having better both athletes, prospects, whatever, and just overall, depth and play up front in the trenches, because that often is the differentiating factor between some of these 5As and then the 2As and 1As. Is it becomes a numbers game, particularly up front. But this Calvary Baptist team, obviously, when you talk about the trenches, you're going to talk about the transfer of Devin Harper over from Captain Shreve to join a line group that, even as a 2A school, really handily beat that Captain Shreve team last year in the regular season. You have great guys on both sides of the line, though. Just to shout out a name on defense, Ethan Sands, I think, is a fantastic defensive lineman for the Cavaliers. And so those groups, last year and this year, probably some of the best trench groups that Calvary's had through the years, even when they had some great teams in years past. And then they still have the phenomenal, smaller speed guys, skill guys on offense. That secondary, even though they have to replace some guys, I think is going to be really stout again. Good linebacker group, and then saving some of the best for last when you talk about Abram Wardell, who is one of the not only most efficient but successful, decorated, all of these adjectives, quarterbacks in the state at any level, coming back this year. And then the Texas running back James Simon right alongside him in the backfield. And so a ton of weapons, fantastic quarterback at the helm, and at every level they've got a lot of strength that I think they'll be tough to beat in Division III. But I don't know that I would necessarily throw them above in an Edna Carr or a Acadiana and whatnot. Catholic High probably, but I tell you this much: those Cavaliers, if those schools would have let them schedule them, if it would have worked out, the Cavs were happy to schedule anyone in the state just to show where they could stack up.
Yeah, that would be pretty interesting to see them play against a Carr or a Catholic or a Ruston or a team like that with that pedigree. But sticking in 2A before we move up to 3, LCA. I know that they're in 2A now, and they went to our media day and talked to Coach Lockhart, and they're going to play a really tough schedule this year. I know that's a team everybody's going to keep an eye out for. Union Parish. What a year they had last year. Winning a state championship and going for it. Again, the 2-point conversion at the end took a lot of guys from Coach Spafford to do that. Dunham, made some had some headlines because of their quarterback Elijah Haven, and he's now the number 1 player in the 2027 class, and so that shows you just the talent in Louisiana in the next couple of years. It's going to be just fine at the they'll have the quarterback position as well. Newman seems like they're going to be a team that's going to be right at that edge. Last year they've always been right at that edge of trying to get in the dome, and they have a really good shot this year. So and I'm sure there's other teams I'm missing out, like Mangum and other teams, Washington Christian. But to you, Jared, out of those teams or teams that I miss, who are some other 2A teams you got your eye on this year?
Yeah, I think a lot of those that you mentioned, it'll be really cool to watch some of the teams like a Dunham that hasn't been to the Dome in so long, or a Newman that, as you said, has been knocking at the door trying to get there for the first time for so long, and both led by great quarterbacks, and that always makes a huge difference all season long, but certainly once you get to playoff time. And so, can this be the year? Those are always some of the most fun stories, are the kind of storybook-esque stories of Dunham went so long without getting there, finally got there, and then ran into that buzzsaw of St. Charles, and can they finally get over the hump and win another state championship? Can Newman get there despite, I think when Arch Manning went through and didn't get his, people kind of wondered, okay, is it going to happen? But Eli Friend has been so fantastic for them. A couple of other schools, Bunkie, that has been so resurgent, will be interesting to watch for, I think, at least a deep playoff run with some of the talent they bring back from that team last year. They're on the select side. De La Salle is another team that I think as they start this season, they feel like they have a chance to be among those last teams standing in Division III select. They return a quarterback. They've got some good young talent coming through, like a couple of those linemen they have. And looking at some of those teams on the non-select side, I think Oak Grove coming up is huge.
Yeah.
Union Parish, I won't write off, as much as they now have to replace more key pieces. You heard how much joy was in Coach Spat's voice to be able to call everyone out at the end of last season for feeling like they were written off once Trey Holly graduated, to know that they were a true program and would be in contention year in, year out. St. James is a team that, although I'm getting crossed up, you see already.
Oh, I know. I'm with you.
So we'll talk about St. James in a second. They're a 3A, but they're in Division III. And yeah, we'll talk more about them in a second. But some great teams around the state in that kind of smaller, mid-range size school group.
Yeah, and speaking of St. James, we can talk about them now. I know last year that they had a really good team last year, had a chance to win a state championship last year, and that was really the best game of the Prep Classic last year, was that matchup against Union Parish. But I basically from the conversations that we've had when we're down at LSU in practice, it seems like that this St. James team is young, losing a couple of guys from last year, but they're really talented. So what's kind of like the pulse around there at St. James?
Yeah, they're as confident as ever, despite the fact that I think they only have 4 or 5 seniors starting combined between the two sides of the ball. And so a young team, a lot to replace, particularly from some really key leadership spots. You got to start with having to replace Braden Williams at quarterback and Kobe Brown, that dynamic duo for years that it was, so great down in beautiful downtown Vacherie, but key guys around that roster that they'll have to replace. But they've got some good 2025 guys, and then you get into this wave of young talent coming through St. James right now with, not only some 26s and 27s, but even some 28s that'll be called upon this year as freshmen. And so I think they kind of like probably that people say, oh, everything St. James graduated, they may need a year, and they don't view it that way at all. They want to be competing for a spot in the Dome and potentially going home with the big trophy at the end of the year. And looking at some of those teams in their group, I think it's realistic that that's kind of what we're talking about, is them making yet another deep playoff push and, having a chance at the end of the season.
When we're talking about teams like Newman, like Dunham, that have been like right at the cusp, right? I mean, obviously this team has won a lot of state championships, but the last 2 years they feel like they probably just were this close of really getting that state championship. And with all their coming back, I know this is the team everybody's going to be talking about, especially in the Baton Rouge area, and that's U High. And U High right now, I mean, they have a lot of guys coming back from last year's team. At a lot of key positions, and I saw them a little bit in the spring, and it's hard to really find a weakness on their team. So, is this like a must-win championship year, just considering a lot of the guys that are returning for them?
I think a lot of those 2025 prospects would say so. When you look at it, arguably the top college quarterback prospect in the 2025 class, and Emil Picarella, a guy that came over last year and in his first year adjusting to being back in, in Louisiana, his parents' home state. He moved over from Mississippi. He set records as a passer for the Cubs and got them to the semifinals. He joined a group where he and Keelan Moses and Jaden Gloston and other guys were talking about all offseason that they needed to go win a state championship, and then absolutely heartbroken at the end of that semifinal at St. Charles going into I can't remember if it went into overtime or it was at the buzzer that St. Charles walked it off. And so just absolutely heartbroken in that semifinal game to fall just short of getting to the Dome. And I know all year so far, several months since then, they've been talking about they've got to complete that job this year. Great 2025 group, as many college commits as anyone around the Baton Rouge area, if not the state right now. So a lot of next level talent in that senior group, and some key youngsters coming along as well that they know they can rely upon to be playmakers this year.
Yeah, and there's a couple other teams to talk about in just the 3A. I know you mentioned De La Salle as far as a team as well that can make a good run this year. Sterlington, we're talking about Sterlington as well, and how they're in it year in, year out as far as running for a state championship. Madison Prep's always a very talented team. A-Meet making that jump up to 3A, and I saw them in the spring, and looks like they're going to be pretty explosive on offense. JFK, I mean, what Coach L. Page is doing over there with that program, too. And you got Gina. Gina had one of their best seasons ever last year, getting that #1 seed. So, to you, just any other teams that stood out, to you besides like a U High?
Yeah, and looking now at 3A, I'm realizing the people that I jumped the gun on when I was looking at the playoff divisions with the De La Salles of the world and Bunky and some of those. I think Jennings is always interesting. They've shown even if they end up being a lower seed, they can make a playoff run. And they've got Rajon Zeno, a guy that I know you're super familiar with, just committed to the Gridiron Bowl in the last week or so. He's been a fantastic running back for those Bulldogs. That Bastrop team is going to be really interesting to me, particularly in their District 1A. They get a couple of key transfers over, with the Downs brothers moving back to their family's hometown up at Bastrop, and then Trey Mason, the fantastic wide receiver, two-sport guy from Wassman this past year. His dad ends up going up there to be the OC. He joins the staff up there, and so Mason comes up there and gives Dylan Downs a great target on the outside. And so there's going to be some ability there, certainly for the Rams to score an awful lot of points this fall. And I don't know as much about their defense, but they could be a team that kind of surprises some people because a lot of us haven't thought as much about Bastrop in recent years as we would have 10 or 15 years ago. Donaldsonville is an interesting team for me in that St. James district to keep an eye on. Another sort of under the radar type team, but one that I know has some good talent. And so we'll see kind of how they come together during the course of the season. And there's a few other teams like that. I like some of the young talent coming through. St. Martinville, a team that obviously has some proud tradition of some big playoff wins. How does it come together over the course of these next couple months?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, and you're right about Bastrop too. With those Downs brothers coming over, not really. It should be a lot more talked about than what it really is. But that's a really big move for Bastrop, and it's going to be cool to see if they can get back into contention, like you said, like in the mid 2000s when they were really rolling. So we'll go up to 4A, St. Thomas More. With what they were able to do and win the back-to-back state championships and all that they've done. But it just seems like, hey, they're going to find a quarterback and they're going to be just fine just because they've been doing it for so many years. And I know they got a really talented one coming up, but they are replacing a lot of talent. So what do you think about St. Thomas More and just I guess, what do you think about their chances of maybe 3-peating?
Yeah, they're going to be really interesting to me to watch this year. I think they're going to have some definite challenges. You mentioned they have to replace an awful lot, including that quarterback position. But at the same time, they've been like a machine in recent years where when Walker Howard and company were graduating, people wondered how they do. And then the next thing you know, they're starting a season with a quarterback battle, and they're ending that season with a state championship. And Sam Altman was phenomenal with some of his late throws and that comeback against LCA. And so they have a lot of confidence, certainly, that regardless of who they graduate, they can be among the top teams there at the end. And they've got some good options at that quarterback spot. The senior this year in Matt Parker, the junior this year in Cole Bergeron, who I love, among the top quarterbacks, in my opinion, in that 2026 class around the state. One of the other curveballs for them is, we didn't mention them before, but once it comes playoff time, they and Turlings will both be up in Division I now, with all of the Catholic League schools and Catholic High and Acadiana and so on. And so as much as they'll have to weather some of the early storm of finding guys to grow up in a hurry and be ready to step into those big roles, they'll have a lot of storms to weather late to try and get to a three-peat as well, just because of that ramp up in competition. But I think starting with the Lafayette area for 4A is great regardless, because their district remains one of the toughest districts in the state. And so I know we'll have eyes on a lot of those teams.
Yeah, it seems like it's a seamless transition from Division to Division I, because they played they played the Catholic Highs in the past. I mean, they played these teams before, and their district is really tough. So it seems like it's just going to be a natural flow, a natural transition into Division One. Speaking of a team that's moved up in class, is a team we've talked about. I mean, as far as being a dominant program, pretty much the last decade. And that's St. Charles Catholic, and I know that St. Charles Catholic is replacing one of their best senior classes, probably their best senior class ever. So it's going to be pretty tough to replace that. But with a new team moving up, how do you think St. Charles Catholic will fare?
Yeah, similar dynamic to what we just talked about with STM. They've proven, the Comets, in recent years, that they are as steady of a true program and ready to compete at the highest level year in, year out. They've proven that as well as anyone in recent years, with this string of dome trips that they're on right now, including the string of state championships in the midst of that. And so watching them now jump up to 4A, similar to what we talked about with that Calvary Baptist team, the Comets are not shying away from anything at any point. They'll play anyone they're given a chance to. They're really excited to take this leap up in terms of classification and further prove, how strong they are as a team and as a program. And it's just going to be interesting to see how they replace all of those guys this year, because the success of replacing key losses to graduation, as much as watching teams do that gives you more confidence they'll be able to seamlessly do it again the next time they have to, it's a new challenge every single time, with new guys that have to step up the same way those guys before them did. And so there's a tradition of doing that there, but we just have to watch how it actually plays out over the course of a long season, both competing at this level in the regular season as well as now at a higher playoff bracket at the end.
And basically, more questions for 4A before we move up to 5A. One's about, I call them Michigan South, and that has to be Archbishop Shaw, right? Just because of the commitments they were able to get. So with Hank Tierney, with some of the talent that they have, including a couple of Michigan commits on their football team, what do you think about Shaw's chances of being right back and getting back to a state championship after so many years?
Yeah, I think they fit in that mold of some of the other teams we talked about, where, similar to U High, this Shaw group views this as a really critical year where they have a chance and they need to make good on it. And if they do, it would be, like we talked about with some of those small school teams, it would be such a phenomenal storybook moment for them to build that program back after some really lean years there for a while, and to do it with Hank Tierney back on the West Bank and guys that transferred over there. That, I mean, you're talking about some kids of former players for Hank Tierney years ago at Shaw. And so it's been cool to kind of see the way all of that has come together, including just the excitement of the community over there to support all of it. I told the running back Jasper Parker and the receiver Jacob Washington when we were doing a little interview about the Michigan commitment and their expectations at Shaw and everything over the summer. When I left their a scrimmage in the spring, an intra-squad scrimmage, and then also their jamboree in the fall, 2 non-regular season or playoff games, just, I mean, little exhibition type stuff. I was blown away by the amount of fans that were all there, excited to kind of celebrate after and be around the team. And so the energy there is awesome. The talent there is awesome. Coaching obviously is awesome. And there's a chance there for them to be, if not the last team standing in their division at the end of all of this, certainly one of the last again.
And Division Two non-select, it seems like that's always a bracket that is pretty much open for the taking to grab. And last year, Opelousas was able to do that. I know that's been a tumultuous off season for them, but it's great for that community to get that state championship trophy back and to play a district foe, Cecilia, in the state championship was pretty cool to see. I know they return a lot, and Opelousas, Cecilia, they're gonna be right in the mix of it, but you also have, of course, North DeSoto, and I mean they pretty much merged with Luke Delafield a couple years ago when he was a freshman playing the Superdome, and then obviously Dennis Dunn coaching, and then you have Letcher, another team that was a team that beat them in that state championship game. So how are you seeing that bracket play out?
Yeah, a lot of those teams you mentioned, and certainly need to start with those 2 teams that were in the Dome last year that, as you mentioned, a lot of talent back. Both of those teams in Opelousas and Cecilia to make the Dome last year were loaded with 2025 was kind of their headline class in terms of a college talent standpoint. So now all those guys that were so pivotal in getting there last year, and in Opelousas' case, winning it, they're now back as seniors. And I think for Cecilia, certainly they're hungry as ever, having had that taste of getting there and wanting to complete that mission. And I think Opelousas, with some of the off-season stuff that you mentioned that flew their way, to me, I think Coach Zachary and company are probably sitting there thinking, how much does this now help us keep that chip on our guy's shoulder when people were kind of coming at us, or this was reported, that was reported, and are they taking away the state championship that we just made history with and whatnot? Those guys should be, as far as a reigning champion, as fired up and motivated as anyone could be. I don't think they're going to be satisfied because they've had that kind of ability to keep that chip on their shoulder. North DeSoto, you mentioned, has been right there. Lutcher, I think, is back among those top couple of teams in terms of championship potential in that division. They'll be a lot of fun. Have obviously the high end college talent in Rashad Sterling, the defensive lineman who's committed to Houston. Also, really cool story with Coach Jenkins' sons, both on the team now, including the starting quarterback as Zach takes over. And I guess a couple of others of note: Wassman and Franklin Parish there up in North Louisiana that both had strong seasons last year and return a lot of key pieces. Plaquemine, who sometimes gets overlooked around the Baton Rouge area, but is always as talented as anyone and has a chance to make a run. And then Iowa is another team a little bit further west, Southwest Louisiana, that has been great in recent years, but just hasn't quite gotten over that hump. They've got some key pieces to replace as well, but have a lot of talent back to maybe make their run again this year.
Yeah, those are good teams. Yeah, Blackman's definitely a sleeper. I really like the veteran guys they bring back. A lot of talent there. So I have them right now the favorites in that district. So yeah, Blackman's definitely a sleeper for sure. And always join with. So we're joining with Jerit Roser, Louisiana versus all y'all. I know it's so much to try to go over 30 minutes, but we're going to try to get as much as we can. But we want to finally end up with the big boys, right? 5A, the big boys. And I know that Ruston, coming off a state championship like I did last year, first time since 1990. Right now, I mean, as far as like the top teams in the state, I mean, I have Calvary up there, but I think I have them right now. I have Ruston and the car right now as far as my 1 and 2, just from what I've seen. And to you going into the season, Division I non-select, obviously things change throughout the season. But that's why we do preseason rankings and stuff like that, just to talk about it. But heading into the season, do you think both Ruston and Carr should be the favorites for both classification, both playoff brackets.
Yeah, that's spoiler alert on I'll be releasing a preseason top 50 teams regardless
Okay.
of classification, and I haven't locked it all in yet, but I think in
Mhm.
some order those are my top two teams, Ruston
Yeah.
and Edna Carr. And Ruston obviously comes off of their storybook year of a year ago, and it'll be interesting to see how they, as we've talked about with a lot of these teams, whether some of the roster turnover, particularly for them on the defensive side, where they remain strong, they remain talented, but last year was one of the great high school defenses we've seen in recent years. In since we've been around this probably, and they're going to have to replace guys that are all over the state and country for college football now, and how that transition works and some guys taking over new roles will be interesting for sure. And then how they handle the dynamic of just, Coach Ball and company have to make sure that this group of teenagers that has been talked about all off season about how great they are, and they won their state championship and they're local legends now, and oh look, they're the top ranked team in Louisiana on these national lists around, coming out from Max Preps and others, and all of these things. Um, Last year's group had to have some early wake up call moments too, to
Mhm.
realize nothing is as great as this team is, nothing is for granted. And this year's team, has to have that same mentality, I guess, if they want to go repeat. And then on the Edna Carr side, they were so disappointed with the way last regular season and last postseason ended, because they thought they had a chance last year. But I think this was kind of the team where you've now got John Johnson, his second year as the starting quarterback, and everything that last year's experience can mean for him. You have so much talent in the 25 and 26 classes that all returns. And so this this year's Edna Carr team probably has as high of expectations to say that this could be the year they win again. They probably have expectations as high as any of this recent stretch where they've been trying to get back to that point.
And I know both those teams are going to have, if they're going to get through and accomplish their goals of winning a state championship, it's not going to go unscathed because
No.
they got some really tough teams to go against. Obviously, on Carr side, the defending state champion, right, the Catholic High Bears. Even though that they're going to have to replace a guy who's seemed like he's been playing quarterback since the beginning of time in Daniel Beal, but it seems like they, besides trying to figure out that quarterback position, Catholic's pretty good everywhere else. So, what do you see from the Bears and their chances of repeating? And I know it's Hudson Fuller's really second full year.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, man. We're all watching to see how the quarterback position shakes out for Catholic. Um, and they're just loaded everywhere else. The
Mhm.
backfield that the quarterbacks will have the opportunity to rely on in the run game is great. The offensive line up front is really strong again this year. They've got some weapons to the outside, and so whoever ends up taking that position and running with it potentially will have all of those benefits, as well as you mentioned Hudson Fuller. And I
Mhm.
don't know that there are a lot of guys and staffs in the state that if I have to replace a starting quarterback and have a new face ready to lead a championship caliber team, that I have as much trust in as I do Hudson and that Bears staff. I think that they're certainly in that elite group that I have a lot of confidence in their ability to do so. And then the defense obviously will be really strong again as well. They have to replace some key pieces there in terms of Blair Russo and some other seniors that graduated, and RJ Fleming Ricard that transferred out to IMG. But the Bradford brothers, Caden Jones, and a long list of other key players on that Bears defense are back, and they should be very much among the top contenders. I mentioned I probably have in some order Ruston and Carr as my top two teams in the state. Catholic may very well be three. They're certainly in that mix as well as a top five team.
Yeah, they're going to be in the run, and whoever is the starting quarterback, they got the keys to the Cadillac. They definitely have all the pieces around them in order to make another successful run. And how far they go, I'm sure is going to deal with that. but there's a lot of other great teams. I mean, you were there. We saw each other in the spring. Destrehan, Destrehan returned a lot of great weapons and arguably probably even the best receiving core in the state. You can make an argument for it. Acadiana, they came up just short of played in the Superdome against Catholic. They ran into a buzzsaw when they played against the Catholic High Bears, but it seemed they got to return a lot of really good offensive talent. This could be one of their best years on the offensive side of the football for them. Neville's got a lot of really good defensive talent. I'm sure this is going to be a big year for them. Dutchtown's coming off their best year ever. Zachary and John Curtis, they're always going to be in the conversation as well. So some of these other teams in 5A who you got your eye on, Jerit.
Yeah, it's a long list. You named a lot of them. Like that Neville team, that's a traditional 4A team that's up in 5A now that I really hope to see at least once, if not a couple of times during the course of the season, because they have a lot of talent that I watch on Huddle and little clips that I get, but I haven't had a chance to see as much of them in person as some of these other teams. A Westgate team that is a 4A team, but is a Division I playoff team that has a great 2025 class and honestly gave Ruston a hell of a game in the second round last year, despite the fact that Jabari Antoine had been out for months and was just coming back to be active, for the first time since being knocked out of a game earlier in the season. And so if they have him all season, their seeding looks a lot different at the end of the year. And if he's in his full rhythm and whatnot by the time that they face a Ruston, then that could have been that much more interesting of a game. I think you mentioned Zachary, you mentioned Dutchtown. Walker is another team in the Baton Rouge area that made as deep of a run last year as it ever had and returns an awful lot of talent there for Coach Mahaffey and company. And so there'll be a lot of fun in that Dutchtown district. Those two teams kind of battling for top dog status in that 5A group. On the select side, you always have so much capability from the full run of the New Orleans Catholic League teams. John Curtis will be strong again, as always. Holy Cross was the number one seed in the bracket last year and returns a lot of talent from that team. Warren Easton moves up to 5A this year and is in the Catholic League. And that's a team that I don't know that we've talked about a ton this offseason because of the way last season went for them and such an abbreviated season for them, but they've been as much of a contender at, previously at the 4A level as anyone in the state and should be another team to watch. Karen Crow has been really strong these last couple of years. They'll have to go through a coaching change, but hand the keys to the program over to Gavin Peters, a guy that's been there for a few years now and knows the program very well, obviously. And so a lot of familiar faces. St. Aug remains super talented and now has Robert Valdez coming back from the college ranks to take the reins. They'll be a little bit young this year, particularly on the offensive side of the ball, but I think as talented as anyone in that Catholic League. And then we mentioned at the beginning in terms of teams moving around, watching how Evangel potentially comes together over the course of this season up in Shreveport and the course of a gauntlet of District 1-5A will be interesting to watch where Pop Houston and company are by the end of this. Cause, we talk about chips on shoulders. Pop seeing Elijah Haven as the top prospect in the country probably has him, that much more fired up because those two to me are right in kind of the same ballpark as two top end national level quarterbacks. And so when Pop's able to get out there and finally show it this fall, he's going to have a lot, chip on his shoulder and ready to prove kind of what some of the early hype has been with him.
Yeah, and just to wrap it up, if you love offense, you love scoring points, that 1-5A district is going to be really fun to watch. Like, think about old Big 12, air raid, offense, basketball on grass. I mean, you have Airline, you have Ben's got another really good quarterback too, and you mentioned Evangel. So, like, there's going to be some points being scored in that 1-5A district.
Yeah, Shreveport has been for years now kind of the cradle of quarterbacks in Louisiana in terms of the number of super productive quarterbacks in that 1-5A district. Yet again, you've got Ben Taylor at Airline and all the numbers he put up last year. He's back for his senior year. You mentioned Malachi Ziegler over at Benton. and we talked earlier, the 2025 running back class is awesome. That 27 quarterback class led by Pop Houston, Elijah Haven, and Malachi Ziegler, and I think there's some depth behind them as well. We talked so much about the 23 quarterback class, and I think this 27 quarterback class has the potential to be every bit as good, if not better, by the time that they're finishing up their high school careers. It'll be a lot of fun to watch those guys develop and see if they can kind of chase that high bar that Arch and Eli and Ricky and those guys set.
Yeah, it seems like right now each class has their own theme as far as position. 25 class has been about the running backs. 26, we're going to talk about the linemen, next
Yeah.
year with James Stewart and Lamar Brown and those guys, and 27 with the quarterback. So talent always really great in Louisiana. So Jared, I just want to wrap up the show. Anything you want to promote? I mean, Louisiana versus all y'all. I make sure to set my notifications to Louisiana versus all y'all so I can keep up with everything. Jared does an excellent job of keeping up with everything going around the state. Anything coming up? I know you say you're going to have a couple write-ups coming up as well for Prep Our Zone and stuff like that. So just talk about what's on the horizon for y'all, content-wise.
Yeah. Well, let me apologize to your phone if you got the notification set, because I was looking yesterday. It's been a really busy month of stuff hitting the Louisiana vs. All Y'all YouTube channel, and so I apologize if the noties are going a little bit crazy. But we're getting into a lot of preseason stuff. I've been more heavy on some of my college coverage stuff the first half of the month, but on both the video side with Louisiana vs. All Y'all and the written side with Prep Red Zone Louisiana, transitioning right now into an awful lot of preseason content for this fast approaching high school season. Right now with Prep Red Zone, it's a lot of these are the top prospects in each region around the state to watch this season, regardless of classification. And so kind of mixing up those groups some as much as we usually talk about. Here's the best 25s, 26s. Right now, just trying to give folks in each area, here's the best college prospects regardless of class. And on the Louisiana vs. All Y'all side, just some check-ins with different reporters from around the state talking about outlooks for their respective regions and outlooks for the bigger statewide picture. And we'll also have my top 50 preseason rankings regardless of class, and also, some scrimmage coverage and some interviews with some top guys from around the state as well.
Yeah, make sure to follow Jared, Louisiana versus All Y'all. His content's great. YouTube channel is great as well. A lot of great videos, highlights, interviews, you name it. So make sure to give him a follow if you haven't got a chance to do that at Louisiana versus All Y'all. We'll definitely make sure Jared's a really busy man. And I can understand being on this side of things. He does a great job. We'll probably catch up with Jared maybe about, maybe once a month, maybe just kind of get an update on what you think about the season, and maybe get like a halfway point update from you, end of the season recap. So we'll make sure to keep up with Jared and have some more conversations like this one about the upcoming season. Any final thoughts, Jared, before we wrap up the show?
No, man, that's it. I appreciate you having me on, and definitely am down to continue to chat at different points throughout the season whenever we can make it work. Because I know you said how busy I am. Jace is as busy as anyone as well. We're both bouncing around and trying to just keep track of everything happening around this great state with so many fantastic programs and coaches and kids and communities supporting everything going on with these football programs. And so really excited to start this season and looking forward to catching up with you again soon, man.
Absolutely, Jared. Football season right around the corner. When this is uploaded, I'm sure games have already been kicked off, and we're really excited for another season. So this has been Jace LeJeune along with Jerit Roser from Louisiana versus All Y'all on their first ever episode of Ballin In Da Boot. I want to give a reminder out there. We're definitely going to pub this a whole lot, but we had our fundraiser breakfast a couple weeks ago. I know Tony actually got Brian Kelly signed football from the event, and you get a chance. We're also having another type of fundraiser, but what this is a donation. So this is a card right here. It's going to be Gridiron Football. Since we cover a lot of LSU football, I talked to LSU. They're going to give us 4 tickets for the LSU Nicholls State game. So if you want to make a donation, all the proceeds here for a donation are going towards the bowl game and helping kids. So every donation, let's say you want to donate $20, you get 1 entry. If you donate $100, you get 6 entries. So the more time
times you donate, the higher percent chance you have of actually winning these 4 tickets. Also, you're not going to win just the 4 tickets. You also get an opportunity to tailgate with the Bluegrass Miracle quarterback, Marcus Randall, who is a big supporter of what we do, and you also get a chance to go in the L Club too. So get a chance to meet some former LSU legends, former LSU football players. So 4 tickets to LSU Nicholls State September 7th, but we'll end the drawing on August 29th. So make sure to donate, make your donations. You can go to our website, gridironfootballusa.com. It's the first thing that will pop up when you go to the website. You can donate there, or you can scan the QR code. You can actually find it also on our social media, and I'll actually have this up in front of the screen so you can scan the QR code. So scan the QR code. You can find all pinned on our top of our social media. So scan QR code to win for a chance to win 4 tickets to LSU versus Nicholls State for the home opener. Tailgate with Marcus Randall, get LSU Club, the L Club. Remember, every $20 donation is 1 entry. So if you donate $60, that's 3 entries. That's 3 entries into the hat, basically. And we'll randomly pull on August 29th at 12 p.m. It will be announced on our Facebook page. Hello, everyone. This is Jace LeJeune from Gridiron Football, and we are here at our office in Denham Springs for our debut episode of Ballin In Da Boot. And what's going to be even more unique about this show, you just saw our first segment talking about some high school football. Appreciate Jerit Roser of Louisiana Y'all having a pretty good conversation there about the upcoming season. Of course, this week starts scrimmages, and then next week you're going to get to jamborees, and then you're going to get to the real thing, week 1 action. But we're not just talking about the high school side of things. We're going to talk it from all the way up, from middle school and also flag football side of things as well. And we're really excited to announce a great partnership with Louisiana Prospects, and we'll get the 2 representatives from Louisiana Prospects to talk about what they do, and they'll talk about the flag football side of things. They'll also talk about some middle school football that's going on, because obviously we want to keep up with them at a young age. That's why we started the junior high All-American Bowl game. But excited to have both y'all guys on, and Kenneth and Tony. So just basically for y'all, just tell me about Louisiana Prospects. I know Louisiana Prospects has really helped a lot in flag football as far as the youth. But y'all just kind of give an overview about yourselves, first of all, and what really guided y'all and brought you to Louisiana Prospects. I guess we'll start with Tony first.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got introduced to flag football back in 2017. Actually, adult tournament, went to Dallas, Texas, and big tournament, right? Everything's big in Texas, they say. We went out there and we had an adult tournament, but I ended up going to the youth side and noticed all these teams, and I was like, wow, it's amazing. We need to bring this back to Louisiana. So I got involved quickly after that tournament, came back with another organization, coached, and right during COVID, decided to kind of step out on my own and start another organization. So LA Prospects was formed during COVID, 2020. We started our first season in the winter of 2021. We had like 150 kids come out the first session. Wasn't expecting that either. I thought it'd just be, a small group of 60 kids we can work with, develop. So, but hey, it's grown from there. We've been going 4 years now. I'm the president of the organization. My wife's the vice president. We're clicking high numbers now since starting in 2021. So it's a great organization. We're blessed to have great families, great coaches, and just great kids in the Central Parish area.
And Tony, I know you have a pretty good football background as well, and you're a college football player, played at Southeastern, correct?
Yes, played at Southeastern. I signed there in 2005. Mommy was there but ended up leaving. So I had Dennis Rowland come take over, and then I had Mike Lucas. But it was a good 4 years, great community out there in Tangipahoa. Enjoyed my 4 years, made some good friends, good networks out there, and really enjoyed it for the time there. Pretty decent career there. Enjoyed it. Like I said, had some good teammates I still talk to this day, and partner with the events and what we're doing now. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you're the president. I know Kenneth also plays a big part in this role as well in helping you out. And Kenneth, introduce yourself and what was basically your journey to this point.
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Kenneth Lowman. I kind of just do a lot of administrative side of work here with Tony and the organization as a whole. I'd say it was about 3 years ago. I was a kid in college just graduating high school, scrolling on Facebook, and I had an ad for flag football. I was playing flag football intramural at LSU. Had an ad pop up, went out there for 7-on-7 and got my butt beat the first season. Didn't win a game. Tony approached me, and I mean the rest is history. He's like, hey, we want to, the energy's there, and we have a vision that we're trying to achieve. He brought me on board from there, and I mean we haven't stopped since.
Yeah, really. And we're going to talk about how busy the summer has really been for y'all guys. But before that, it just seems like flag football is just really growing as of late. Just looking at what the NFL is doing and the NFL flag side of things. So just seeing what the NFL is doing with the flag side of things now. What are some big reasons why it just has grown in the last couple of years?
So NFL flag, RCX Sports, who operates for the NFL flag, they've done a great job just over the years and making it better. This is just a great game. They brought a whole different experience. I mean, we all know 3 weeks ago they were in Canton, Ohio at the NFL Hall of Fame. So this sport, there's a myth it doesn't compare to tackle, but it's no different, right? You got to know how to catch. You got to know how to run routes. You got to understand being a defensive back. Playing that position and what comes with that position, making reads. My main thing when you get ready to tackle somebody, of course, hey, you got to have right alignment. Head, knees aligned. Square up, cutting people off. Getting in front. So, but NFL has just done an amazing job. Just growing the sport. It's so inclusive. It's for everybody. That's the main thing. It's inclusive for everybody. It doesn't matter, size, age. They've made it for everybody. It's teamwork, discipline. You got to come together, practice, learn, and you got to be disciplined in your assignment, right, to execute a play. So it's a great sport, and like I said, NFL is just doing a good job with resources. I mean, there's a ton of resources and just how to run these leagues and operate them, and just for your coaches who may have never coached before, just resources to help them, like coach kids or whatnot. So I totally think that any high school program, a middle school program, or just a rec tackle program should definitely have a flag, or whether it be 77 program attached to that in some way, shape or form. So.
Yeah, even the tackle side of things, I mean, you really have 7-on-7s. I mean, you got high school football teams focusing on 7-on-7, which is, kind of like flag in that aspect. So the growth of the sport, Kenneth, you elaborate on how it's grown.
Yeah, I mean, just flag football as itself, since it's, begun in NFL and RCX, as Tony said, picked it up. 2.4, million kids per year are continuing to join a recreational flag football league. And as that continues to expand and you continue to move up middle school, high school, playing that 7-on-7 in high school, you're learning all these different fundamentals and techniques that we're teaching at a young level, and we're continuing to add on as you move through each different set of 5-on-5, 7-on-7 tackle. So you're just continuing to build on and add more and more fundamentals to where it comes together. Tony and I, we always say, especially like with quarterbacks, hey, things speed up a lot in 5-on-5 flag. You got a rusher coming at you from 7 yards, and that's all his job is to pull your flag. Now, hey, let's add an O-line to you, and let's slow it down a little bit. It really helps that quarterback kind of learn to, hey, I don't have to make these reads as fast now. I can really slow it down now and kind of make these reads on the play. So it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, and I just noticed, really the last couple of years, and I know this wasn't part of the script, but just talking about
high school quarterbacks in the state. You know, how that's really grown. Like, it seems like the play at the quarterback position is getting better. You got more like the Arch Mannings and Ricky Collins as of late, and recently Elijah Haven from Dunham. He's just been named the top player in the 2027 class in the country, and he's a quarterback in Louisiana. So it seems like the 7-on-7 circuit, the flag football background in that when they're young, it seems like that's getting bigger and bigger. And speaking of growth, I know y'all had coming off a big event, right? The Super Bowl for y'all, and over 300 participants in the Super Bowl. I believe it was held at Dutchtown, correct?
Yes.
So tell me about that recent event and how successful it was for y'all.
Oh, great event. We go all out at LA Prospects for our Super Bowl events for the kids, but we had 306 kids this summer participate in our summer flag football season. We do a 6-week season. And we go into playoffs. We do playoffs on a Saturday, and then we have the Super Bowls on a Sunday. So we do ages 6 to 14. So on Sunday we have those Super Bowls, and hey, it's a great environment. Saturday, the playoff day, we have vendors come out. Just activities for the kids to do, food vendors and things to entertain the parents also with women's clothes, men's clothes, all those type of things, freshmen. But it was a good event, successful event. Like I said, we always do our best to go out for the kids, and just our families are part of LA Prospects. But great turnout, good event. Getting ready to gear for our fall season, starting here in 2 weeks. Would be at East Ascension High School in Gonzales. So
just want to kind of piggyback off of what Tony was talking about our fall league. Another thing that makes LA Prospects and unique, and with that flag football and NFL flag affiliation, all these, like you said, these resources that are provided through RCX Sports and NFL and the NFL. These kids are coming out each week, and they're sporting. When they're selected to a team at the beginning of our summer season, spring season, they're selected to an NFL team. So each week they're coming out, they're sporting a Dolphins jersey that has a home and away side. So these kids are wearing a Dolphins jersey that they get to keep. So each time that they're played on a team, you got kids that are, they're saving their jerseys up, and they're going to make like a blanket out of them when they graduated. They're going to make a collage. And so these opportunities that the NFL provides, letting us take some teams, working with the Saints and taking teams to go play at the half times of the preseason NFL games. Like, those are unique opportunities that NFL and RCX Sports provides for these kids and our organization that kind of sets us a little bit above that bar that, some people expect out of flag.
Yeah, and you mentioned, you've probably seen it on your screen as well. We go over all the age group winners and talk about how the range of ages, because it seems like there's a variety of ages. You can be as young as this and go up to this, but it's getting the young ones involved with the sport early. So how young do y'all go far back from, and how old y'all go up to?
So we actually start at 4. We have a Pelican Power program that caters to like 3 and 4 year olds. You want to get some good laughs, have some fun. You definitely should come out there and see that one, man. That's an enjoyable moment for us. But then from there they graduate to the actual league. So we have the 6U, that's our 5 and 6 year olds. We have 8U, 7 and 8, 10U usually 9 and 10, and 12U, 11 and 12, and 14U is our 13 and 14. Now coming in 2025, we plan to expand and do some older age groups. Some of our guys that aged out, just to maybe give them like a spring, either a winter or spring season, to get some off-season work after they finish high school tackle. Just give them a little off-season work to keep them engaged with our organization. Like I said, these are guys at this stage, they're playing high school ball, and these guys are committed to the process. Been on a lot of them since they were young, so they have college ambition. So we want to keep them engaged with us and let them be mentors for the younger generation, part of LA Prospects.
And Kim, was there also anything to elaborate on the Super Bowl and just the event?
Absolutely. Sure. So our Super Bowl event, like you said, we had to pick some of our teams. We have, Tony said, starting at 6U. So this season we had our 6 and 8U division. The Bengals represented our Super Bowl champions.
Okay.
Our 10U, we had the Detroit Lions. They made it to the bowl. 12. I'm sorry. Yeah, 12U as well. We had the Detroit Lions, huh? We had 2 Lions this season.
12U Lions.
Didn't even notice that when we were talking about it.
2 and 8U Bengals.
Yeah, two Bengals, 2 Lions, and 14U we had the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
So it like I said, it's a great opportunity for them to wear those jerseys and be able to sport those teams, whether they like the team or not. They're representing this NFL team.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is really great seeing them at the end of the season with the Lombardi Trophy and sporting them awesome rings that would provide.
That's cool what y'all guys do and getting these kids to dream that, about being in a Bengals jersey or a Lions jersey. Give them that, simulate that feeling, right, of what, make them dream young about, hey, maybe one day I get to do that and play in the NFL and get a chance to hold up the Lombardi Trophy or something when they get older.
The Bengals option is, I call that the Joe Burrow effect.
Yes.
Oh yes.
Joe Burrow effect.
I don't blame them. I think they're more popular right now than the Saints are. Down here as of late.
Man.
But yeah, the stats. We talk about how much this is growing. I know, Kenneth, you sent me a stat. 2.4 million kids under the age of 17 are playing organized flag football in the United States, while millions more participate globally. So it just shows you how much really the sport has really grown.
Absolutely. As we continue to talk about flag football, some people even wonder, hey, like, I understand what flag football is. Cool, we're pulling flags. Like, what is the difference between flag football and 7-on-7?
Mm-hmm.
What we typically provide is we provide a 5-on-5 scale. So we have 5 on offense, 5 on defense, and 100-yard football field. We're putting 4 of our game fields on there going across. So it's a smaller field, 25 by 70 yards, but it's 5 kids on that field on both sides of the ball. So it's a smaller size field to allow for that more action and more gameplay. But at the same time, it's also allowing for more rotation of players and being able to get more intimate work.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'd like to elaborate on that a little bit.
Oh no, it's definitely fast paced. Like I say, it's good work. Like my guys that play tackle, like receivers and DBs. Look, you got a second, instinct, having, being fluent, backpedaling, good hips, good route running. So. But now I love the 5v5 format. I feel it only gets them better, for 7v7 when they, cross that path. So.
Yeah, y'all kind of lean into it, but I think the rules and what are exactly the rules of flag football for y'all? I believe it's a smaller field. What was that, 25-yard by 70?
Yeah.
By the width.
Yeah.
And a 10-yard end zone. So kind of in a ways, it's like almost like arena league type, right?
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of points, feels condensed. It kind of stresses it on the passing game and the receivers and DBs. So any other rules that you want to go over that maybe not a lot of people are familiar with flag football, especially when you got your occasional tackle football viewers out there?
Yeah, the rules are, totally different.
Can't tackle.
Yeah,
obviously.
Yeah, no contact. Can't get a personal foul. But the rules of the game. 7v7. You're just playing 50 yards in, whatnot. You get points for interceptions and obviously scoring. But in the 5v5, we're playing full field. When you start off from the 5. You have 4 downs to get to the midfield line. You only get 1 first down in this game.
Okay, that's why
it's pretty interesting. So after you cross midfield, get the first down, now you have 3 downs to score. 3 downs to score.
Okay.
If you don't score in 3 downs, then the other team gets it back on their 5, and we go forward.
Okay.
My funnest rule in flag that I enjoy is the overtime.
Okay. Look, so how's the overtime work in flag football?
So overtime, all right. Overtime, in the first overtime, you get the option. You can go for 1 or 2.
Okay.
In the first one.
Okay, so kind of like what the UFL, the XFL is doing.
So we have a 1-point line for conversions. So that'll be 5 yards out from the end zone.
Okay.
When you go for 1, so NFL, just adding on to like Tony said, there's two times on the field for an NFL flag field that you cannot run the ball.
Okay.
So you can't run the ball at all. 5 yards before you cross midfield, you have to pass, and 5 yards before you score if the ball's spotted in that area.
Okay.
So if you go for 1 after a touchdown, you have to pass.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
If you go for 2, you can run or
You can run or
pass.
pass.
Okay.
So just kind of.
Is there a limit on runs, just in
No.
general?
No,
Okay.
no.
Okay.
Just as long as you're not netting no runs on, you're
Okay.
I was just putting that out there before you
Yeah.
continued about the overtime. So yeah, first
Yeah.
overtime they could go for 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Oh, go ahead.
second overtime, both teams, they both get in the first. They both have to go for 2 in the second overtime. And the third overtime, right? They both get it in the second one. The third overtime is most yardage.
Oh, okay.
Started the 5 going
yeah,
out.
who
Oh,
gets the
okay.
most yardage.
Okay.
Which creates an exciting, intense, heart pumping moment.
Okay.
For parents and just those watching. We've seen some great battles in that third overtime.
6U, Jace. We've seen
Oh,
like
man.
6U.
6U.
6U triple overtime.
Oh,
is-
okay.
We had a Super Bowl last season. Went down to triple overtime for 6U. Had to get most yardage in. I mean, you had 14U families, 12U families in the stands just
Getting into it.
getting
Everybody was
into it,
crowded
man.
around this game.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Like the 7 overtime LSU A&M game,
Oh,
it was
man.
like that, huh?
Oh, man. I think I had about 3 bathroom breaks during that.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
overtime.
Oh yeah.
It's exciting though, to see the support from especially our younger Division 6 and 8, just to, family support. The Super Bowl not only brings parents, right? You got mama, papa,
Oh yeah.
uncle, auntie, great aunt, great
People
uncle,
Facebook live
cousins.
streaming.
We just kind of see the whole family for Super Bowl weekend. So
And a lot of it for these guys is their first time actually
Yeah,
playing in
absolutely.
any sport, really.
Yeah.
So it really brings the family together
Yeah.
and say, hey,
Oh, yeah.
they capture some of those moments for the first time. And time range, what's like the top 20 minutes
20 minute halves,
nonstop?
40-minute total game.
Okay.
And you get a 1-minute halftime break.
I will say, and we'll
Yeah,
get into
yeah.
it in a little bit, but as you get into the more competitive side, where it gets a little bit more intense and cutthroat, your game time gets cut down a little bit. You get a 24-minute game total, so you get 2 12-minute halves. So these kids go from a 40-minute game down to 24-minute game, and it really makes scoring and getting those defensive stops very crucial because
Oh, yeah.
you get scored on
Absolutely.
early. You better hope you score on that next possession, otherwise you got some catching up to do.
Play clock changes too. So
Yeah.
Okay.
rec league, it's 40-second play clock. When you go to travel tournaments, it goes down to 25 seconds. So
Okay.
it's very, like Ken said, fast paced.
I play
It's usually like one-
tempo.
Every possession has to
Okay.
count. Yeah.
Okay. It's usually like one ref per game or
2 refs.
2 refs?
Yeah.
Okay.
We do 3 for championships, and this is more like a national thing. Mostly your championship big games usually have 3,
Right.
4 refs.
Okay.
You have a lineback and a
Yeah.
rush judge.
Okay. Cool. And then I think the only thing about flag as far as rush. So how much time does a quarterback have?
So NFL flag gives a quarterback 7 seconds to throw the ball,
Okay.
even if they are rushed. So
Okay.
if they have a rusher coming at them, they still have 7 seconds to get the ball out. So it's a little different. Some flag circuits, you'll see where they cut that 7-second clock if they're being rushed. I'm more so on the side where, hey, I do like that we keep that clock because, like we mentioned earlier, when we're speeding that game up for 5-on-5,
Yeah.
and then now, hey, we're gonna get on the field and we're gonna give you an offensive line now that's actually gonna protect you.
Right.
It's gonna it definitely slows it down a whole lot more. So it's like, okay, I'm not having to hurry and get this ball, and I have time to make my reads and progressions.
And we got to prepare Jace, for the one rule that everybody talks about
Before you say that,
comes out
sorry,
there.
Jace.
Oh, yeah.
Rush comes from 7 yards. My
Yeah,
apologies.
rush
Okay.
comes from 7 yards.
Yep.
But there's this rule
Okay.
called impeding the rusher.
It's the
And-
biggest
Oh,
controversy
okay.
in
Yeah.
all of flag
Impeding the rusher. Okay,
Yes.
so it's kind of like roughing the passer in some way.
in a sense.
sense.
Yes. So if the rusher has the right of way to
Okay.
the quarterback,
He gets one pass.
yeah. And
Okay.
If you run in front of that rusher and make him stop
Or change his
or
path.
change his path, that will be called impeding the rusher.
Okay.
That's a 5-yard loss of down.
Okay, and that's
It's
from the
crucial.
quarterback side of things, right? Or is that from the?
That's from the receiver
It's
side
from
of
the
things.
Receiver side,
Yeah, so the receiver. So
Oh, okay. I see
Yeah.
now.
they
I
have
see
a, they
now.
have a
Okay.
straight line to the quarterback.
Uh-huh.
Now, if the rusher changes that, like if the rusher themselves, they move
okay.
off that path, it's
Yeah.
good. But if a receiver makes him move off his
Move,
straight path to the
okay,
quarterback or bumps
okay.
into him, and
It's kind of like a pick and like a receiver pick. Yeah.
So we in our league and just from experience going to other tournaments in other states, these coaches now, man, look, there's some clever guys, man.
look for
Oh,
they
yeah.
look for the loopholes. All
Yeah, they
the
do.
loopholes.
Our coaches are, our coaches meetings, man. Like the questions we get sometimes, it's like, I didn't even think about that.
You think you prepare for enough questions you think you might get in the coach meeting, and you still get a new question.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
it's awesome.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that get thrown out that you never thought.
Yes.
And it gets in the game, played out in the game. And I know you were talking about a little bit, Kenneth, about how competitive flag football is, and obviously we've seen it on ESPN recently. But just talk about how competitive it really is.
Yeah.
I'm sure it gets competitive, more and more competitive than the older and older kids get.
So as we're going into ESPN, so LA Prospects homes their own like competitive side of flag football. It's called our elite program. So we've taken tryouts and selective kids starting from like 6 and 8U all the way up to 13U, and they play on that competitive side, that shorter game circuit that we talked about. But I'm sure a lot of people saw the past, I think it was July, ESPN, ESPN2 on your ESPN app, everybody was getting updates. Hey, flag football's going on, girls flag football championship, boys flag football championship. So the NFL and RCX Sports did a really good job about like getting that on people's screens. You can go on Disney Plus right now and you can watch the boys and girls championship for the 15U divisions. It's out there for people to see. But it's no way, let me register to go to Ohio and play and you're in that tournament to be on TV. The NFL's everything they do is strict. They everything's followed, perfect guidelines. Yes, it's perfectly pressed, it's all right. So for those tournaments and competitive, they take the United States and they split it up by a bunch of different regions. And so you can only compete in your region when they host certain tournaments. So New Orleans Saints in October, they're going to host a regional down there at, Lafreniere Park. And so the way their tournaments work is everybody's going to come in that's in that region, and they're going to play in 3 pool play games. Okay. Got to do good in those pool play games. So they're only going to take that top 50% of those teams and standings. So if you got 8 teams, only 4 teams are going to bracket play. Not everybody gets to go to bracket play. It's very cutthroat. You could go 2-1, and the team above you has scored 8 more points than you.
Yeah, so not any team. If you go and watch those games on ESPN, it's like not any team just can go and play in that, right?
Best of the best in each region coming together for the national tournament. So, but yeah, the tournament scale is, like I said, very competitive. We have some teams here in Louisiana that do pretty good and have been able to been successful and made it to the nationals, 2 years in a row. So Louisiana is we're catching up. Texas is really big, and Florida is really big.
Florida, Texas, football. Pennsylvania.
Yeah, the East Coast East Coast has some good teams also. But Louisiana is, of course we're going to play catch up. We have athletes, in Louisiana to do it. So just getting everybody to continue to buy into the flag football model.
And not only the guys are getting involved, you just mentioned Kenneth, but I guess I'll go to you, Tony, about the girls' involvement and getting girls playing out there and playing flag football and the popularity that's getting to the girls for them to get involved in playing football.
Yes, right now there are 11 states that have sanctioned the girls' flag football as a high school sport in their states. So, of course, hey, there's a big push from the NFL and, just the flag community as a whole, to get these girls going. We're actually starting our first girls' flag football league this fall. And, we're looking forward, to that being a success and, empowering and, developing some young ladies in flag football.
Doing what, 8U to...
Yeah, we're going to do 8U, 10U, 12U, 14U, and 18U division, which would just be the high school division.
Okay.
But definitely the girls are making a serious push right now. The accessibility right now, just the NAIA division schools are offering scholarships now. So that there's opportunity right now. And, I still don't think, flag football has reached its peak. There's still more to be done. And LA Prospects, we plan to do our part to, make sure we continue the growth of that.
Yeah, and that's a great transition, I guess. Anything you want to add to the girls being involved?
No, I mean, I think like you said, LA Prospects does a great job of trying to keep their hand in that pot of making sure that, they're all about inclusion and everybody being able to succeed on the field and being able to get that opportunity to play a sport or the sport that they want to play. I mean, we have girls in our league that are playing on their middle school football team
Yeah.
that did not want to play, and so they got to play around these co-ed divisions, and they were continuing to play around more of these boys and get more comfortable. And they're like, I got this. Like, and so these coaches are giving these athletes these opportunities to play in their middle schools, and it's truly awesome to see like the progression that they're continuing to have with the sport.
Yeah, it's amazing. And from our side of things, we may be making a little history this year. I know Escambia High Schools in Florida, they usually have a lot of players that play in their bowl game, but their coach called us the other day and said, hey, we want our kicker to play in the game, and it turned out she's a girl, and could have her first girl participating in our bowl game this year. So that'll be pretty cool. Yeah, absolutely. So flag football, 20% increase in girl participation over the past year, and also. One thing before we talk about the off season for y'all guys in flag football is that it doesn't just end like high school, right? It seems like colleges are picking this up too. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, man. Colleges are catching on. They're seeing the traction that's there. Huge props like Colorado, Texas, like I said, more of those West Coast teams, and Florida. They're picking up on what's going on. They're seeing the traction that the sport's gaining. There's these voices out there, these representatives that are loudly voicing and letting everyone know what is happening with the sport and where it's at. You have what's going on with the Olympics that's continuing to happen.
Yeah, that's right.
The pro circuit last year they brought, was it last year, 2 years ago, they brought to Hoover the USA against Mexico. It was a professional team. It was in Hoover, Alabama, and that was kind of like our first taste of like seeing it past college. And now colleges are like, okay, let's start offering these scholarships to these girls teams. Let's see what's going on, and they're picking up on it, and it's
actually Birmingham.
Thank you.
Yeah. Birmingham.
Yeah. Anything you want to elaborate on that, Tony?
No, I mean, look.
I went on a little tangent there.
No, you get. No, it never stops now for sure. Like I say, it goes. I feel like it's just like baseball now with the flag football.
Right.
It's a year-round sport, a year-round opportunity for kids to participate, learn, get the basic fundamentals and develop in the game of flag football.
Well, we were talking about off season. We were talking about these teams up north and these teams on the East Coast, and that's kind of where that barrier kind of separates us from them. We were talking with somebody at the Gridiron hosted a brunch.
Right.
3 weeks ago.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago.
So they had a brunch, and Tony and I were actually talking to somebody who lived in Vegas, and they only have Pop Warner. They didn't have football in the middle schools.
Right.
And so they didn't have that ability to play middle school football, which made us reflect back to up north. They don't have that either. They play flag year round. So that's where that traction as well, it kind of starts to gain and pick up more, because you have these teams that are, NFL athletes are starting to jump in on it, and they're starting to put in money towards these programs, and you get these competitive leagues, and these colleges are jumping on board.
And, Tony, as the president of Louisiana Prospects flag, what's going on during the fall? Because everybody's talking, watching tackle football, but on the flag side of things, what's going on during the fall?
So we're doing our fall league, and we have our girls league will be going, but also NFL has just submitted their dates for the regional tournaments.
Okay.
So they do their regionals now in the fall and winter, springtime. That leads up to the summer nationals. So the New Orleans Saints dates went out last week. So the New Orleans Saints will be hosting their regional October 26th. So we'll be preparing our travel elite teams to get them ready for that regional, because look, it's going to be some stiff competition, and we have yet to make it out the regional and make it to a national just yet. Young program. This will be our third year here. Third year. So we rebuild, and hey, look, things are on the up and up right now. We got a good group of kids, good group of parents. So we'll be honing in with those young men, and doing some training, some one-on-one time, and just preparing for that regional in October.
I gotta toot our horn. We play out of circuit as well. So like you said, we got a good group of kids, good group of parents. Our 12U team that we it's been together since about April. They recently got back from Tennessee. Okay. They took home their national championship out of circuit.
That's awesome.
They continue to.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We're proud parents. But you know, we continue preparing for these NFL circuits too. That, you know, they like I said, they're very intense. They're very competitive, and they continue to learn and grow, and they understand that. So
So there's NFL flag circuit, and there's a USA flag circuit.
Oh, you're right.
which is what they use for the Olympics.
Yeah.
They use that circuit
Yeah.
for Olympics.
So both host good tournaments, you know, good events, and gives our kids the opportunity to compete, you know, nationally, and, you know, compete on a good level too, to get them better and, you know, prepare them for the local competition.
Yeah, I have to get y'all thoughts on that about flag football being an Olympic sport. Just what y'all think about that, as far as, you know, growing the sport, flag football, and having that as Olympic sport. What do you think that's going to do just to the popularity of the sport?
Man, that is huge.
Yes.
LA 2028 Olympics.
We will be there.
We're definitely planning on going and, you know, supporting and doing our part in our flag football community, you know, to keep this thing going and evolving. But that's a whole nother pedestal, you know, an Olympic athlete. You know, that's the best of the best. I mean, it gets no better than that. You know, to get that recognition for the sport is huge. A lot of that, if you follow USA Flag and just other like flag, you know, discussions. You know, I don't know if y'all seen the commercial with Jalen Hurts. You know, there's some NFL players that, you know, talking about playing.
I was just thinking that.
There's some
bring that
NFL
up.
players that are, you know, discussing and saying, you know, making their, you know, approach to, hey, I want to play. I want to take in on this, you know. But I'm gonna tell you, man.
We got these flag players that
we have you know, guys. We got Hoosh
from New Orleans.
out of New Orleans. Great athlete. Yeah, that's the female side. But you know, you have these athletes that have been playing this game, you know, for a while, and we don't want to take away from, you know, our actual USA team.
Right.
Those guys those guys got wheels and they're athletic and they can play. Man.
Yeah.
And, the USA does a good job of you know, selecting and picking that team. So. I'm interested to see though how the NFL plays.
Yeah, absolutely.
With the NFL players wanting to play this.
Yes, because flag is it's not easy to just pick up.
Yeah.
It's really not. We've coached, you know, like we put kids together on a travel team before that hadn't necessarily played a lot of flag before. They're interested in the sport to try and get competitive at it and train. And pulling a flag's not easy, man. Especially these kids and these adults, these players that are playing it year round that know how to use their hips. Flags on your hips. It's all about, you know, breaking down, locking down, and being able to just tackle that defender or pull that flag.
Maybe we can have a segment and show Jay some of the moves these guys can.
Absolutely. For definitely for different show.
Yes, absolutely.
And these guys will be coming on every week, so we'll talk more and more about flag football in its entirety. And the NFL is getting involved. I mean, NFL players are getting involved because the Pro Bowl, they got the flag football game, so they're even getting involved with it.
Ole Miss actually.
I remember you were telling me that.
Ole Miss actually did a flag football game during their spring game.
Okay, I think so. Yeah, I think I remember seeing that. Yeah,
they did a flag football game.
For
their spring game.
Yeah.
I was like, blown away by that.
That's the first time I've seen that. Yeah.
So and we got, you know, those 7-on-7 circuits. OT7's a big popular one. We went to a tournament in Tampa. It was a good experience for our boys. They follow, especially the older ones. They follow that OT7 circuit. I mean, it's a big name for itself, but being able to, they held their championships at the flag football tournament, at that tournament in Tampa. So they were able to, you know, it's like worlds collide, and they were seeing the 7-on-7, these guys that have played tackle and 7-on-7 that, you know, they were able to see them at their flag event. It was a big worlds collide type deal for them. They loved it.
Kudos to USA for being able to partner with OT7 and bring that event to Tampa. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's not all about flag football we're going to be talking about. We're also going to be talking about the middle school. Obviously, we have a gridiron football, junior high, All-American Bowl game at the end of the year. We're actually going to have another game after the success of the last 2 years. We're going to have a second game. I think the plan is going to have a North Louisiana team against a Texas team, and another Louisiana team against a Florida team. So both these guys, and Tony and Kenneth, are also going to be going to middle school games this year and check out some of the competition. So and that will be helping us with the junior high game and recruiting that game. So talk about just getting an opportunity to go and check out some of these middle school games this fall.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it. Excited to partner with you guys, partner with Ken, and get some guys, seen, and give them opportunity to play in this Gridiron Middle School Bowl game to, further them for a better, future, with you guys and get them engraved early with you guys. Excited to go out and, see some of the talent, Louisiana has to offer as a whole within the different parishes. We're in Ascension, of course, but hey, we'll be, catching all games, throughout, different parishes. So
Sure.
Just looking forward to seeing some good talent and, partnering with the coaches at these schools.
Yes.
And that's what's going to be so cool. We'll have video, we'll have footage, so we'll talk about some of the guys that stand out, not only at the high school level. I mean, we'll talk about the high school in a different segment, but here we're going to talk about the younger generation, the rising stars, as we say, the next generation of players. The future is what we're going to talk about here. So, guys, anything just to wrap up, anything that I may have missed or anything that you want to talk more about? Obviously, we'll have week in, week out to talk about this, but anything for today? I guess my last thing is, how can they get involved? They want to get involved with Louisiana Prospects.
Oh, absolutely. Go to our website. It's LAprospectsllc.com. There you can go to register. You can also just browse and just kind of see what our upcoming events are. Just different things we do within the community. Just the leagues over the years, just pictures, just to see what we do, how we do it within our league. Like I said, right now we're gearing up for our fall season, co-ed fall season, and then we have the all girls league starting in September. Registration ends August 31st for that. We are allowing teams or coaches to bring their own girls team if they want to. And we also have a area where you can just sign up, and we'll assign you to a team within LA Prospects. We'll be NFL flag also sanctioned, so the girls get a chance to pick the NFL teams also.
Okay.
And also, and we have our late fall league. This is a league where you bring your own team. Go ahead. This will be in November. Also, that's on our website in our upcoming event. So just follow. Go to our website again, LAProspectsLLC.com, and also follow our Facebook page, LA Prospects Flag Football Association, to see what's going on and what's coming up in LA Prospects this fall.
You want to wrap up that last event in November as well, the 23rd?
Also, we'll have our end of the year tournament. We call it the Gathering. This will be our third annual the Gathering tournament. Mm-hmm. This is for the travel circuit, just our rec teams, out of state teams, in-state teams, but we come and battle it out over a weekend, right before always do it right before the kids get out of school, so they come play a weekend tournament, and then, hey, look, compete, come get your ring, then you can go off the momo, pawpaw, get you a good turkey, good cornbread dressing, and enjoy your holidays, watch the bowl games, and all that good stuff. So that's on our website too, though. Like I said, just follow our Facebook page, and on our website, you'll see upcoming events. You'll be able to see all that info.
Anything you want to?
I'm gonna tell you real quick, tail off of what you were talking about our late fall league competitive side. We kind of touch it on our recreational side of the league, but getting into that competitive aspect that we talked about, that shorter game clock, we're interested and excited to also do so with that 6U division. That competitive side, the kids are playing quarterback at that 6U age. But we're kind of throwing in another twist this late fall for that competitive league, and we're doing what's called a USA Flag Circuit introduced it. It's called Air It Out. So what it is these coaches are playing quarterback for these kids. And when I tell you this division for tournaments usually go up from like 6U to 14U, like you got dads out there that are throwing the ball, getting picked off by 14-year-olds. It's hilarious watching them celebrate and like get all up in their face. It's a blast.
That has to be the most. We'll show you some snippets of that, man. That has to be.
I have to.
The funniest thing ever when a coach throws an interception to a 5 or 6 year old. Big game.
They do it in our rec league.
And look, they take it back and house it, man, for 6.
Oh, okay.
Our coaches love to give each other a hard time.
Oh, I bet.
We have some, like I said, we have some great coaches, great parents, a part of the organization.
Yes, absolutely.
And, it's a fun environment, and we look forward to it. It's gotten us to where we are. Just our motto is just doing things the right way. Real simple. Just do things, treat people the right way. So.
Absolutely, guys.
Looking forward to a great fall.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's going to be pretty much about it, guys. Looking forward to having y'all week in, week out. Unless y'all have any final thoughts on anything before we wrap up.
No,
We're good?
Yeah.
We're good.
Well, appreciate both of y'all guys. You'll be seeing a lot of, this is not a one-time thing. We're going to be doing this week in, week out. So you'll see a lot of Tony and Kenneth throughout the football season in our Ballin In Da Boot episode. Appreciate both of y'all guys for coming.
Absolutely.
Tony
Thank
and then
you.
Kenneth.
Thank you,
Definitely
man.
looking forward to catching up with y'all throughout the season. Looking forward to see what Louisiana Prospects got to offer, and we'll see what's going on in the middle school side of things. Also, give a shout out to Jerit Roser, who was on with us earlier to talk about some Louisiana high school football. Can't wait for the upcoming season. I mean, we're pretty much right in it with scrimmages, jamborees. We're pretty much right at the start of it already. Appreciate y'all guys. We'll see y'all next time in another exciting edition of Ballin In Da Boot.